We're going to be talking about growing peppers. So this is the first year that I've grown pepper from seeds. Maybe I've done it in the past, but I have since forgotten. In the past, I used to try to grow everything all at once, and I would throw 20 different seeds into different containers and try to nurse everything along. So as a starting point, I like to try to break things into smaller steps and also be thinking about, if I'm growing something new for the very first time, to focus on just that thing or not try to spread myself too thin, growing too many new things at once. I get the impulse, truly, I get the impulse to just plant everything and try growing everything all at once. It always leads to failure. Okay, so with that, let's talk about peppers. The pepper that you'll be seeing for most of this video is a paprika pepper. I'm assuming that's a pepper that gets put in paprika. Should have looked that up before this. Anyway, generally speaking, you want to start pepper seeds indoors. It says here 5 to 8 weeks before the last frost. A year like this year, I live in Vancouver, and it's a La Nina year, which means we've had much colder and wetter temperatures more into the summer. So this is July 2nd, and really the sun and warmth have only started in the last couple of weeks. So the peppers that I started inside took a really long time to germinate because there just wasn't much warmth or light. Pepper seeds do take longer to germinate than a lot of other vegetable seeds. So don't panic if after 4 weeks you don't see any sprouts. I would try planting seeds every 2 weeks once you've started, and that will give you a sense of the germination times for things. But again, sometimes they just take a little bit longer. The key thing is to keep whatever soil mixture your seeds are in, keep that relatively moist and warm without, brutally over drying it. It's a bit of a delicate balance sometimes. That is part of starting seeds yourself, and this is also why I caution against trying to grow too many things at once. Is different types of seeds want slightly different conditions. If you have a big greenhouse with different microclimates and areas for different types of seeds, you'll have no problem. If, like me, you're growing seeds in your apartment, you need to think a little bit more carefully about it. Generally speaking, peppers want full hot sun. So the reason why I'm growing them is because all I have is a back patio, really. There's a vinyl covering, and it gets so hot in the summer you could cook an egg on it. After your seeds have germinated and sprouted, you want to keep the seedlings, again, relatively moist and in as much sun as you can, because all of that sun is going into the leaves and creating a bigger plant. I think it was on an Instagram video or something, was about trimming the tops of your peppers so that you can produce more foliage, which brings in more energy to the plant and produces more peppers. So what I'm showing you is an experiment that I've done. 2 peppers in exactly the same place, one that has been topped with this method and then another that has not. The thing that I would caution with every piece of gardening advice is whoever's sharing the advice is doing so from their specific location with their specific needs in mind. So sometimes a method can be really great in New Hampshire, but it doesn't work in Wisconsin. So anytime you hear a piece of gardening advice, take it with a grain of salt, and then also do some research into if that thing makes sense for you in your area. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so the idea that it's going to get really, really hot in the kind of conditions that peppers love maybe isn't going to happen. So topping your pepper plants in an area that doesn't get as much heat or sun may not have much impact. It might even be detrimental. On the back patio, where it's basically full sun and it gets really, really scorching hot, it's actually working pretty well. So I think this is going to be a method that I use going forward. And to be honest, when I first saw it, I was sort of thinking, I don't know if that's actually having an impact on the plant. If you are topping your pepper plants, make sure you're doing it in a part of the season where there's going to be a lot of sun continuing to happen to grow that plant. If it's much later in the season or the weather hasn't been particularly good, the plant is just not going to have the time to absorb enough energy and grow as much. And so really all you've done is cut off several weeks of good growth on a plant for no real impact. I hope this has been helpful. This is just a quick introduction to growing peppers. If you do have questions about starting things from seeds, I've included some resources in the description. And of course, I'll have more videos about starting from seed.